night and welcome to the Galen Hour. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on Wednesday nights to talk about different topics. And this season of the Galen Hour, we're focusing on protecting our wildlife. And this episode is particularly focusing on the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, looking at the programs they offer, the work that they do, but also ensuring that we talk about the Wildlife Ambassador Program. I have in studios with us tonight two representatives from the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, and we have two guests also coming on virtually. I see Ms. Dene, who is from Galen University. She is the coordinator of the Environmental Science Program. Welcome, Ms. Dene. Thank you for joining us. Okay. We're not hearing Ms. Dene. Yes.
Sorry about that. I was muted.
Okay.
Good night, Ms. Diana. Thanks for the invitation.
Great to have you on. We also have, and we're so happy that she could join us, the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic's founding director and veterinarian, Dr. Isabel Paquet Duran. Dr. Isabel, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having us.
Great. We look forward to the conversation. In the studios, we have with us Max Ram, who is a wildlife and One Health educator. Welcome, Max. And we also have joining us Gian Vasquez, who is also a wildlife and One Health educator for the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic. Gentlemen, welcome. Ladies, welcome. I'm Diana Gomez-Perry-Feet. I get the pleasure of hosting the Galen Hour for the last 10 seasons, so it has certainly been a pleasure. And as you may know, the Galen Hour is a Galen University production that showcases its dedication to academic excellence, advances sustainable development, and cultivates a passion for lifelong learning. We look forward to the discussion we're going to have tonight. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick ad.
To every man, every young leader, come back to the classroom. No excuses, no limits. It takes the same discipline, the same winning mindset. It's time to get back in, back to the classroom, back to your purpose, back to finishing what you started. Continue to choose the best for yourself. Come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Good day, everyone. My name is Karima Lambert, and I am a proud Galen Eagle graduate. After completing my bachelor's degree in environmental science back in 2023, I was given all the skills and background information necessary in order for me to work for the government as a marine biologist and supervisor. My team and I manage the Glover's Reef Marine Reserve, which is one of 3 atolls within the country and 4 atolls on this side of the world. I'm specifically tasked with reporting on scientific data, both observed and gathered, using some of the very same methods and skills learned while getting my degree.
Welcome to the Galen Hour. Tonight we're talking with the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic. We have representatives in studio. We have Dr. Isabel coming in virtually along with Ms. Dene, who is the Environmental Science Program Coordinator for Galen University. So welcome to our guests. So let's get into our discussion tonight. So Dr. Isabel, since we have you in and since you made such a special effort to be with us, let's start with you. And if you could start by telling us a little bit about how the creation of the whole Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic, how it got started, and the key and critical role it plays in conservation efforts in Belize.
Hey, thank you so much. And yes, it's a little bit of a long story, but the short story is that I didn't come here to start a clinic, but I came here to work as a veterinarian to support wildlife medicine and conservation. Yet there was a need for a facility to care for these injured animals that I encountered and assisted for many different partner organizations for some years prior to the clinic. And ultimately, it was one patient that then tipped the balance and made me try to write a grant and try to get some funding, and it succeeded, and that started the clinic. But the inspiration was a strong need, encountering many injured animals originating from either illegal traffic or oftentimes from conflict, which is what drives many of our education and outreach efforts now that we'll be talking about tonight. So I personally, as a veterinarian, really enjoy caring and interacting or healing animals, if I shall say so. But the most important role that we play is certainly through our outreach and capacity building, because most of the injuries that we see are caused by humans, often without knowing. So that inspired the start of it all.
Fantastic. You said something just now that I think is important for us to talk about, or at least to bring awareness to the fact that the funding issue, wildlife cannot pay bills. So it is very important for the wildlife clinic, I'm certain, to find ways to generate funds and to raise funds so we can continue to care for this is such a critical and very important service. So I want to say thank you on behalf of all of Belize, because this is so very important. And Dr. Isabel for coming to Belize, not intending to do this, but for making this a career and a service to our country. It's absolutely fantastic. You want to tell us a little bit about Spartacus? Is that a special story linked to the start of the clinic?
Special story as in it's a baby monkey that came in severely injured, and he was the one that tipped the scale and made me say I cannot do care for these severely injured animals without having a proper clinic and some diagnostic tools like x-rays, because his arm was nearly severed. And he then turned into our logo, because the first grant I wrote required us to publicly gather votes, and therefore the organization that was at that point an idea of many years, but only weeks old on paper, needed this logo, and that is that baby monkey that is our logo. And miraculously enough, even without a clinic, we were able to care for him and reattach his hand. And he ultimately recovered with many years of care, and also thanks to our many partners, he returned to the wild. Not only did he survive the severe injury, he also kept his limb, and he was able to be rehabilitated entirely, which again, for monkeys, baby monkeys, it takes many years. And in the wild, he's being monitored, and he has fathered many offspring. So when it comes to conservation stories, that is very unusual, because sadly, we do see very high mortality in the field. But that little baby monkey that tugged at everybody's heartstrings, A, to make me try to write a grant, and then B, to make us win in this contest for this grant, probably because baby monkeys do have a special connection with, or many humans connect more easily to baby monkeys than they may do to other animals.
Indeed.
And yeah, he had a very lucky outcome.
Thank you. So Spartacus defied the odds. Fantastic. I know Miss Dene is on with you as well tonight, and I wanted to ask about partnerships with the Wildlife Referral Clinic, and maybe this is a point where Miss Dene, you can jump in and talk about Galen's role in working with the Wildlife Clinic, but also because Dr. Isabel talked about the outreach and education that is such a critical part of what the clinic does. So if you could chime in there for us, Dene.
Excellent question, Ms. Deanna. So we're lucky to have Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic directly down the road, like probably about 10-15 minutes from Galen University, which makes it perfect for our partnership. We initially reached out to them since I've been at the university to host the Wildlife Ambassadors program. A lot of the students enrolled in the environmental science program were very much engaged and love having this new activity on campus. It gives them a change from just the normal theory, the books. They actually get to see what's happening in Belize. They get to learn about actual national initiatives, which is great, which is exactly what we want our program to be. We provide them with skills with these unique training sets. And we were lucky enough, like I stated, to have Dr. Isabel come in and do a first round of training. And not just with our environmental science students, but other students from Galen University, including those within our Vet Tech program. They also enrolled in the Wildlife Ambassadors program, the first cohort that we had at the university. We did that about 2 years ago. I think we had excellent turnout for that one. And students got the chance to, was it a pet boa? The boa that was located within the clinic. Dr. Isabel took the boa on campus, and I think it allowed the students to not really fear animals, but see them as something that's a part of the ecosystem, something that they can appreciate, something that should not be scorned or something that you shouldn't run away from immediately. But again, trying to allow them to have an appreciation for wildlife that they normally don't get when you're just seeing it in a book. We know in the next couple of weeks, I believe, we're having a second cohort enrolled in the Wildlife Ambassadors program. Our students are really thrilled again. These new students, since they heard about the first cohort and everything that happened and the unique opportunities that they got. So we're having the second cohort in a couple of weeks' time, and we have approximately 20 students already signed up for this second version of the program. And I am pretty sure that Dr. Isabel will come in again and allow our students at Galen University, to develop that fond appreciation of wildlife, not just seeing them in books, not just seeing them on TV, but actually seeing what we have in country, developing that appreciation for wildlife and biodiversity. And thanks, Dr. Isabel, for that. It's truly appreciated. Additionally to that, we also have a few students that have interned at the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, and we've got nothing but praises from them upon completing those programs, that internship. The students come to Galen. They love having this theory portion of their education, but providing them with that practical knowledge and those skills that they actually need has been pivotal to them. And I guess we can see that in the video that played just a while ago concerning Mr. Karimi. The skills that we provide these students both inside and outside the classroom are pivotal for them actually incorporating themselves within the workforce in Belize. And that's exactly what we're doing here.
Fantastic. So the value of the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic is tremendous. Let me engage Jan and Max in studios. Can you first of all tell us what your roles, your Wildlife One Health educators? You want to tell us a little bit about what that means?
All right, so maybe I could share a little bit of what the Wildlife Ambassador Program is. So the Wildlife Ambassador Program is an outreach and educational program, and what Madame was sharing with us here. So we work directly under the Wildlife Ambassador Program. So we go out and do trainings along with Dr. Isabel, just in different topics regarding wildlife, wildlife identification, human-wildlife conflict. We also engage the Forest Department, who also helps us with teaching our ambassadors on the legislation that protects wildlife in Belize, as well as other topics including wildlife emergency and assessment, wildlife emergency response, a little bit on rehabilitation. So we work directly under this. We also do school visits. We also work a lot on social media outreach, because you know, this is where the public is. This is where they're watching. So we take advantage of that, and we do a lot of public awareness in social media. Right? In short, that is what we mainly do at the clinic. But of course, we do have other tasks and things that we tend to do. We help out the animals. We help out everyone at the clinic. Does a little bit of everything as well.
Great. Max, do you want to add anything to what Jen said?
Yeah, so it is a very diverse program, the Wildlife Ambassador Program. We do cover a lot of different topics through this, and it's a great opportunity to reach out to groups that otherwise wouldn't learn about the unique wildlife and biodiversity we have in Belize. And again, a large focus of the first portion of this, or the first phase of this program, as well as the current second phase, has been law enforcement. So reaching out to officers, getting them aware of the legislation regarding wildlife, and also building great collaboration with different groups is a large part of it. We have an ongoing Wildlife Ambassador Network in which we connect people. We have annual conferences, we recognize annual wildlife heroes, and all of this comes together to play a great role in fostering better animal care here in Belize, especially for our wildlife which is at risk.
Great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about any myths or misconceptions that you encounter as you engage your public?
There are so many. So there's a lot of myths both surrounding the wildlife here in Belize as well as the different rehabilitation practices that people take. A couple examples would be, lately we've seen a lot of misconceptions about porcupines. So a lot of people might believe that these animals can actually shoot their quills at you, shoot their spines, and you're at risk if you see one. Because of this, these animals are often victims of abuse. We see a lot of children stoning them. We see a lot of different very sad cases. So that's very untrue. These quills are specialized hairs. They can't come off that easily. And when they do, they actually injure the animal. Another one, we do highly respect traditional knowledge at the clinic as well, but there are some that lead to animals being injured. We have the case with our barn owls, very common here in Belize City and across the country, being looked at as the such, which is an omen of death. They say if a barn owl flies past your house, that means that somebody in the house is going to pass away soon. Whereas the reality of this situation is that the only thing that's going to be dying with these barn owls around is a lot of rats. These are great additions to our ecosystem. They provide a valuable service to us, and they mean us no harm whatsoever. So there's these. I could go on. There's a lot of different myths surrounding wildlife. But I think I'll leave it at that.
Yes, good. I used to have two that would visit my yard. My yard had no trees, it's cement, but they would come and sit on the basketball rim, and I never could understand. I had reached out to find out why. They said, well, maybe you have rats, and I'm like, I don't have rats in that. I mean, maybe mouse would, So but I haven't seen them in a while. But I always welcome them, so it's interesting to know that.
Definitely.
How they're treated. I never thought of it that way, but I was just wondering why they chose me. But yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the biggest challenges the clinic faces in treating the wildlife? In terms of resources, Dr. Isabel can chime in here if she wants, or resources, awareness, or human wildlife conflicts. I know you mentioned a lot of the mortality or injuries coming from interaction with humans, Dr. Isabel. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yes. So, sorry, I took some notes actually. Yeah, the biggest challenge, as you mentioned, actually, is of course supporting everything financially. But in regards to the field of rehabilitation and wildlife rescue, there are countless challenges that we talk about in that program in an introduction as well, from very severely injured animals that we can no longer help. We can only alleviate suffering that is always traumatic for everybody involved. We see so many animals where if people only knew better, that it could have been prevented. So that is certainly a challenge as well. But when it comes to what do we see, there's a huge variety of different species, from the birds that get hit by windows or cars or attacked by dogs, coatis and kinkajous attacked by dogs again, or animals that have garbage in them or on them, and making education crucially important, and coping mechanisms to not become too depressed, because it can be quite sad at times, because sometimes we think we can save an animal and we still lose them. There's a lot of sadness to it. It's not an easy job, let's say it that way.
I can imagine it's not an easy job. But I wanted to also talk a little bit about how the protocol works, Dr. Isabel and representatives from Max. And so I've seen recently a jaguar in a community. You know, we see horses being treated less than, well, human, I'll say human, they're not being valued. Manatee is getting chopped by blades. There's all sort of things that we animals being knocked down on the highways. Who do people call? Who should people call? And what is the role of the forestry department, if that's the correct department? And
Yes.
how do you work together?
That's a great question, and again, a little bit of a complicated answer, because it really depends on what it is. So we all work under the Forest Department, that is the legal authority. And when it comes to jaguars, the Forest Department has their group and responds to it. When it comes to vehicle collisions, many of their partners will assist in different forms and ways. Depends on the species, depends on the location, and depends on what it is. We have a 24/7 hotline that was established with our inception in 2012, because I had learned from work abroad for a while how many cases are solved by the phone and how many cases we can prevent from going bad by giving people that opportunity to be called 24/7, to give them advice then on what could it be and what could be done to solve the issue at hand. Yeah.
Good, great. Yes, so at least we know we're working hand in hand, and that's important. I know I'd asked about Spartacus, but is there another success story that you have of an animal being released into the wildlife and after being rehabilitated? So you bring them into the clinic. There's a rehabilitation center that you have before they're released. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Sure,
Gian,
yes.
you will? Okay.
Spartacus is in fact one of those really nice stories that we're really happy. That is what the outcome that we desire, right? So they come in injured due to several different things, and we provide veterinary care for them, as well as we put them through a rehabilitation process. We train them to go back into the wild. We train them to be able to eat, to defend themselves, right? And then once they're ready to go back into the wild, they go, and our ultimate goal is for them to reproduce and procreate and strengthen the population of wildlife in Belize. That is the process. Like we mentioned, a very ideal case was Spartacus. We have many more. But unfortunately, some of them are not releasable, right? Some of them, due to various reasons, there's a very large complication in terms of wildlife rehabilitation, but we tend to want to use Gracie, who's in the zoo as well. She couldn't make it to the wild. She was way too young to go and undergo that rehabilitation process. However, a lot of these animals, they serve as ambassadors. She went viral. Literally, everybody in the country was talking about, and I heard about this last season, even abroad, right? Your little earrings and all of these things were very memorable, and it gives us an opportunity to vouch and to talk about wildlife throughout the country, right? So animals like this, they also serve as ambassadors. For example, another bit of a sad case, which the madam from Galen was talking about, was Margot. She's also an unreleasable boa. She's 8 to 10 foot. However, she got brain damage, so she cannot defend herself, nor she can't eat, right? And that is something that she wouldn't survive in the wild. There's Margot. So she became what we call an ambassador, right? Not a pet, she's an ambassador. And what we do is we use her to teach people, about the importance of boas. And like in Belize, they say, oh, snake, the snake, and they have a very negative outlook towards snake. But boas, they're non-venomous, right? They control the rodent population around our environment. So we tend to use her as an ambassador, and people, they get less scared, and they get to see the importance of the work that we do.
Fantastic. Pictures always help, right? You're seeing all of these beautiful animals. But I must say that learning about them, meeting the people who work with our wildlife, and understanding the importance of conservation really makes a difference. So this is fabulous. Before we go to our break, I'd like to ask Ms. Dene, you could probably come in here as well. If Belize's wildlife could speak, what do you think they'd say to us about how we treat them? Because we're looking at it from a conservation, environmental, us cohabiting this planet and this region together.
I think that if our wildlife here in Belize could speak, it would ask us to give them a bit of a break. Quite honestly, they could use a bit less pressure on them, whether it be by the destruction of ecosystems. I mean, we do see a whole lot of development going on, and people don't really take into account some of the species that might live there. Some of these are endangered species. Pollution of our waterways, people speeding too much on the roads and not really thinking about what could be around the next curve. There's a lot of different risks, and I think that wildlife would, ask for a little more lenience and a little more understanding, and as well to, keep our ecosystem intact. It is part of what makes Belize nature's best kept secret, as the tourism board does like to call us. And I believe that that's true, and they could, really use a little bit of adjustment period at least.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Ms. Dene, from an environmental perspective, working in that area, do you want to chime in here?
I honestly believe that it would be the exact same thing, a plea for help. There is many misconceptions, as you just mentioned, concerning wildlife, especially if they quote unquote invade our private spaces. For instance, you and the owl. It's more of us not understanding that we should technically share our environment with them. We're encroaching on their spaces. There is a need for us to live in harmony with them. And that plea for help would be for us to understand that essentially we can both live in the same place and have a little separation, yes, for safety purposes, but we should not live in fear of wildlife. We should actually embrace it.
Fantastic. This is a fabulous conversation and discussion. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with the Galen Hour. Stay tuned.
My year. My education. Galen University. My choice for excellence in education. Apply today. For more information, email us at admissions@galen.edu.bz or give us a call at 614-6415. Come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Hello Eagles, my name is Raul Castillo. I graduated Galen in 2022, earning a bachelor's degree in environmental studies. My time at Galen was like no other. I had the opportunity to work with professionals and work with like-minded individuals that had allowed me to gain the knowledge and the skills and put me on the career path that I am now. Through hard work, dedication, and involvement at Galen University, I had the opportunity to further my studies. As a Galen Eagle, I can proudly say that I hold a master's degree in marine biology and biotechnology, and I can proudly wear the title of a marine biologist. I currently work as a consultant with the Inter-American Development Bank in liaison with the Belize Fisheries Department. I can wholeheartedly say that Galen has shaped me into the professional that I am today.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We're talking with the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic, and we also have joining us our Environmental Science Program Coordinator. And we're having a wonderful discussion about our wildlife and conservation of our wildlife. I want to start back this second segment of the Galen Hour tonight, talking about what role do mangroves, forests, and rivers play in survival of animal, of the wildlife. Jen, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Of course, this is, as we were mentioning before, habitat loss is an issue, right? And this is where the animals live. So if we cut down their forests, if we pollute their waterways, we cut down their mangroves, where will the animal live? So I want to introduce the concept of One Health here. You know, One Health is that interaction between human health, animal health, and very importantly, the environmental health. Right? So if the environment is not sustainable enough for the animals, you know, it will directly affect them. It will provide many pressures against the wildlife, I believe. So protecting their forests, protecting their homes is something important for wildlife.
Great. Ms. Dene, from an environmental perspective, you want to chime in there and maybe add in a little bit about how climate change affects the kind of cases we're seeing when it comes to wildlife conservation?
So climate change has an implication on the operating of an entire ecosystem. And essentially, it can change the location of species. My apologies. It can also change diseases and pests that they're exposed to. It can change the range in which species can normally find themselves. With a changing climate, it creates a lot of uncertainty when it comes to protecting biodiversity. And at the university, we stress that within our programs, and more so from an ecosystem management perspective. So within the environmental science program, we speak about that holistic approach to environmental management, including aspects of climate change that allow us to understand potential changes to biodiversity in terms of location, biodiversity loss, which is a major threat. We also look at how differing interventions might be needed to protect biodiversity. And this just basically enables our students to understand that the approach that we took maybe 5-10 years ago for biodiversity protection won't work in a changing climate. We need to take additional roles. We need a more hands-on approach to biodiversity protection and even wildlife management in Belize. And I'm pretty sure persons at the clinic can also attest to the fact that probably over the past couple of years, with our changing climate, with the changes that we've actually noted in Belize, that cases have probably increased, and maybe they're seeing differences in cases, so things that are outside of the norm. Dr. Isabel, maybe you can point to that a tad bit.
Yes, that is a very, very important driver changing the entire planet. And what we've seen the most was a lot of more fire victims. But we have from floods to droughts and then more increasing wildfires that immediately drive patients to us as victims of climate change.
Indeed, you know, good food for thought. We know of as it gets hotter, we have all of these forest fires. And for some reason, the focus is on the forest that's burning and not on the animals that are being displaced. And so tell me what happens in a case like this. They run, where do they go? How do they end up at the clinic? Are they caught?
Some get very lucky and they get found by persons who are not themselves in danger, because when we have very bad fires, of course, humans evacuate, and animals that are at that time nesting, which is its baby season right now, which always coincides with burning season. So there are certain animals that just cannot move, and they burn.
Oh, wow.
Some are able to get away with light burns or more severe burns, and a small portion of those gets found by compassionate humans who know and call, and we have been able to recover some of these and return them to the wild. We've also seen some very severe cases that almost burned to death.
Oh, dear.
And or
Yes.
did.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the emotional aspect to the work that you do. I'm sure it has to be very hard at times, and you do have your coping mechanisms in place to handle these emotional. But we certainly have to start thinking more about the work that you do and the people who behind the scenes who are working so hard for the conservation of our wildlife. So thank you again. I can't say thank you enough, right? Dr. Isabel, but just listening to what you all do, you're a rich grounds for education, as you've said. And I know maybe we could talk a little bit about the programs that you offer. And I know possibly part of it is to fundraise for your clinic. But interns would come in to be part of this rich opportunity that you offer. You want to talk to us a little bit about possibly the courses you offer and the opportunities you offer for veterinarians or
Sure.
to learn?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the opportunity. We basically have we teach whoever is interested. For Belizeans, we provide this for free, covered by grants. But we do also offer courses for international students who come, and there's either the intensive course where for 2 weeks there's full program, everything is scheduled with activities. And then we also have a lot of students from all around the world join us for internships, where they just join the team in the daily works from starting, and that's the same internship that the Galen students do with us, where they join the team from morning care and treatment throughout the day, depending on what comes in and or needs to be done, to evening treatments. And sometimes it gets very exciting, and sometimes it gets pretty dirty. So that's the internships. And if it is advanced students, then we also do clinical rotations, and we also do continuing education for veterinarians. Again, for Belizeans, we offer training for animal health assistants and veterinarians. We cover the cost one way or another, and then we also offer courses for international persons who then pay, and that is one of our few support mechanisms, is through these international, from students to veterinarians that come join us to learn.
Fantastic. Do you find that you get interest from maybe tour guides or resorts who are in the jungle area, people who are working there, coming to you to learn about?
Yes, we do, actually. We've had some request the training. So Cha Creek was one example for that. And we have done a couple of trainings specifically for tour guides, and we have another one in the planning, because they are very, very important, because they see and interact with wildlife on a daily basis as part of their job. So they're a very, very important group of people to our work.
Yes, they are. So maybe we could segue into talking about you've mentioned the Wildlife Ambassador Program, but I noticed you also have Wildlife Heroes. Yes, and some people were recently awarded Wildlife Heroes. I think a law enforcement officer might have been one of them.
Yes, so we do have just last year actually, we started the first Wildlife Hero Awards. in which we tried to recognize individuals from, kind of different walks of life that go the extra mile for wildlife to protect both our animals and their communities as well by doing so. So we had named 5 wildlife heroes last year. Amongst them were Mr. Sergeant Holly Vasquez, who is a police officer who is also currently studying law. And he is moving forward in great ways to, try to change some of the legislation that we have regarding these animals here in Belize. We had Miss Victoria Chi from the Forest Department, who is the head of their wildlife program. We had a ranger from the Belize Maya Forest Trust, who is, he's been an integral part of bringing in some cases to the clinic to us. We also had Miss Stephanie Dawson, who is a teacher, teaching primary school students. Shortly after being awarded as a wildlife hero, she actually published a book about wildlife as well, a children's book. And then we had Miss Reina Cho, she's a community member. She's worked with various NGO organizations here in Belize, and she's really also gone above and beyond. So we try to recognize people from all walks of life and celebrate them and what they do to protect our wildlife here in Belize.
Fantastic.
And we will be doing so again this year on October 3rd.
Okay, so a new set of heroes might be named. Very good. Yeah. So a couple of things I want, based on what you said. You talked about, and I can't remember the name of the policeman that you named, but he's studying law and looking at legislation change. What types of changes are you anticipating or hoping?
I think this is really exciting, and it highlights the importance of pointing out these type of people, because it was actually the teacher, Ms. Stephanie Dawson, who initiated a petition. It was at first to change, to amend the Cruelty to Animals Act. Right, we do have a Cruelty to Animals Act, which it protects animals from cruelty, any harm, any damage, any neglect. However, the fees and not the fees, the fines that you can get is very low, and we see for the past few years, we've seen the cases with the horses and different other cases, and then we were very impressed that this was initiated by her, and then it was also picked up by Sergeant Holly Vasquez, who's studying law, and we are currently in the process. It's gonna, of course, be a very long process, but it just amazes us, that these type of people are there and they care and they want to make a difference. And what more of a difference to do than to try to amend the legislation. Hopefully, we get more gravity on that and we are able to see this into fruition.
It's absolutely needed. I mean, I needed to understand which laws, and the fact that you named the cruelty to animals one, and we see it almost every day now in our homes, right, in our town, on the news, what's happening with the horses in particular, the jaguar that was, and I know people felt threatened by that particular jaguar. I think it was in the River Valley or where it was, but the fact that it was harmed in the process. So what can a regular Jane or Joe, what can families do within communities to help and reduce harm to wildlife, help and support the Wildlife Referral Clinic?
All right. So through the Wildlife Ambassador Program, we do teach a bit about what would attract wildlife to your home, what does cause these conflicts. A lot of the time it's availability to easy food sources, or what we call available access. Empty spaces that these animals might use as housing, as nesting. I know here in Belize City we see a lot of barn owls going into people's attics. And they mean no harm by that, but it is a nice, warm, cozy space that they can go and raise their young, which does definitely pose an issue. Health-wise as well, I mean, you don't want these animals living right above your head necessarily. So, just simple actions like cleaning up garbage around you, not leaving out pet food at night per se, keeping your pets and livestock restrained, especially in the case of some of our predators, like you mentioned the jaguar in the River Valley. Also, just cutting off available access to these spaces plays a very big role in, mitigating that. And then also having access to know the resources around you. For example, we have our 24/7 hotline. You can always call us, and as Dr. Isabel mentioned earlier, a lot of these cases can be prevented just over the phone. So having access to that knowledge and being able to reach out to people who might know a bit more and know the resources at your disposal these are really key actions that you can take to help wildlife, help public health, and everything in between just about.
Indeed. Dr. Isabel, Ms. Danae, you want to add anything to what Max has shared? No?
You want to go first? No, I go first.
Okay, Dr. Isabel, yes.
Yes, so no, that was a very good answer already by Max. And I can only try and simplify it a little more, and is learn more. Learn what lives around you and what causes problems. And the easiest way to do that is call us. And I want to emphasize once more how we have to just take that One Health approach and link it all. We don't think about what it means when we throw garbage on the side of the road, but what it will do is it will attract animals into the road who will then get hit by cars. And when animals get hit by cars, worst case scenario, that will cause a fatal traffic accident, which I have sadly had personal experience with. But we don't really make these connections until they're explained. Learning more, and when unaware or scared or not sure what to do, give us a call.
Great, yes. So I had a question asking, what's one small but powerful action viewers can take from our discussion? And I must say, for me just listening, is the use of the hotline. Yes. And Dr. Isabel also said, call us if you don't, you need help and not what to do. Can you all rattle off the hotline number?
Yes,
Can
we
you
do.
share
So
it for...
that's 615-5159. So that's 615-5159. So this is a 24/7 hotline. There's someone available to help you with any sort of questions regarding wildlife, any wildlife conflict you may have. You can feel free to call us, and we will connect you with the help that you need.
Fantastic. All right, so we have like 10 minutes to go. So I want to get into last words and just a little bit more of rounding off our discussion. Dr. Isabel, how do you measure success? Not just in terms of the animals treated, but in terms of the impact on our ecosystem and our communities. I'm kind of putting you on the spot a lot, Dr. Isabel, but
Well, I'm still here. I'm still awake. And, I guess the biggest measure of success is the humans that we reach with our programs and assistance. Because yes, for me personally, as a veterinarian and wildlife rehabilitator, I care about the individual animal. As a conservationist, I care about populations and the ecosystem. As a human being, I care about my health and the health of my family and One Health. And the biggest issue we see is human impact. So the biggest impact we can make is trying to educate humans, and then probably our public outreach, even though me personally as a natural introvert, that was not what I originally came for, but efficiency-wise, I think that is the biggest success that we have. So animal count, we're reaching almost 7,000, but when it comes to humans, that's where it gets really important.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ms. Danae, what message would you like to share with viewers about the importance of protecting Belize's unique biodiversity?
So my main message, and it's the same message that I give my students most of the time, Biodiversity equals life. Point blank, that's the message that we should always take with us. It should be engraved in us. We should learn to live with biodiversity, appreciate it. You mentioned conservation a bit ago. Conservation is a crucial part of biodiversity protection and is also crucial for our survival on planet Earth. We can't do anything without biodiversity. Belize would not be Belize. It would not be this biodiversity hotspot. It would not be this major tourist destination if we did not have biodiversity. So whenever we think of maybe stepping on the ant trail or killing the gecko that's roaming around the house, just remember biodiversity equals life. It's not necessarily important for us to get rid of them. It shouldn't even be a thought process for us to remove them from the natural system because they provide some service that is necessary for us. So just remember biodiversity equals life.
Yeah. Yeah, I never thought about, because I master, when I see ants, I kill them. But thank you, Ms. Danae. Now I'll think twice. Gentlemen, if you could expand the clinic's work, what would be your first priority?
It's a very good question. I think we might sound a little bit repetitive with this, but education is super important for tomorrow. In order for behavioral change to occur, we need education and awareness and outreach. And I think I will make this two parts, but a big goal that we want to achieve is to be able to implement all of these wildlife protection and conservation into, for example, the school curriculums. And for example, the law enforcements who, they're police officers, but unfortunately they don't know a lot of these Wildlife Protection Act. We want to implement this into their curriculum for police trainings. We want to work with the tour guides to be a part of that tour guide training. To be able to share this. And of course, when all of these happen and then the children get to learn from their small about wildlife conservation, then is when you have a behavioral change. And number two, of course, we do want to continue doing the work that we're doing. We're expanding. Currently, we're not in a permanent facility, so we're happy to share that we're building a permanent facility for a permanent clinic. So we do want to leave that legacy for the day of tomorrow, and we want to get a lot more Belizeans involved in the veterinary field as well as the conservation field, and to be able to do this work for coming, right? But ideally, with all that education and everyone knowing and taking care of wildlife, well, eventually we will run out of a job and we'll stop seeing animals. But of course, there will always be a case or another that we will need vets, we will need conservationists to deal with our beautiful wildlife of Belize.
I don't think you'll ever run out of having animals to help us rehabilitate and to ensure their survival. Max, is there any last words you'd like to share with our viewing audience?
No, I think we have covered a lot of different bases here today. Again, I would just like to reiterate to everybody, if you're in doubt, if you need help, if you see wildlife in trouble or wildlife is giving you any kind of trouble, don't hesitate to call our hotline. Again, that's 615-5159. And let's all just try to be a little bit kinder to wildlife. And, if you see something in trouble, kind of ask yourself, what could you do to help?
Indeed. Thank you. Dr. Isabel, you get the last words. What would you like to leave with our viewing audience? How can we contribute to the work that you do?
Well, undiplomatically said, you could donate $1 million. That would be most wonderful. We continue to fundraise, and we use from used towels, bed sheets, and the likes to $1 million. But no, I just wanted, as my last words, thank you for choosing to invite us and this opportunity to share about what we do and why we do what we do.
Thank you so much for agreeing to appear on the Galen Hour and for such fantastic work that you do. Please continue to do the work, and I'm hoping everybody who's listening, who will view this after tonight, realize the importance of what you do. Ms. Danae, we still have a couple minutes. From the Galen University perspective, Your last words, Danae.
My last words reiterates everything that has been said, to be quite honest, Miss Deanna. The need for education, the need for understanding, the need for appreciating what's out there, for placing some value on it. Even if you said it's just not to kill it, that's a value that we're placing on biodiversity. And at the university, we do that not just in our environmental science program, but also within a general core course that we offer, which is Introduction to Sustainable Development. We speak about the environmental perspective, the environmental pillar, how important it is for wildlife to be protected and its importance to many of the other faculties that we have, education, businesses. We look at all of that. So I would want to say that we need to definitely improve education to try to change the mindsets of persons across Belize. I would want us to operate on the do no harm principle. So instead of killing a species, just take a step back. More than likely, half of the time, if you just remove yourself from the equation, you're safe enough. I mean, I've had snake encounters before, and I've just simply taken a step back as opposed to try to take a snake head on, for instance. So I think us understanding that there is a way for us to live in harmony, changing our mindsets about these species is very important. And having these conversations like we're doing today for persons to understand that we don't need to kill everything that we come across.
Important messages and last words. Dr. Isabel, Miss Denise Swayze, Max, Gian, thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. I want to remind our viewing public that the hotline number is 615-5159. So if you encounter any wildlife situations and cases, please use the hotline number. Know that you can donate. And know that we do have people doing important work in our communities. You can reach out to get more educated and to help us to preserve and protect. To all of you watching the Galen Hour tonight, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This season, we're talking about protecting our wildlife. We'll be here next week, same place, same time, for another episode of the Galen Hour. Have a wonderful night, and see you next week. Thank you.